In terms of the number of local governments, Bayelsa has 8 LGAs. Kogi has 21 local governments. Electoral wards, Bayelsa has 105 electoral wards. Kogi has 239 wards. For the polling units, including the voting points, Bayelsa has 2,244 polling units and voting points, while Kogi has 3,508 polling units. In terms of the registered voters, Bayelsa has 923,182 registered voters, whereas Kogi has 1,646,350 registered voters. Since 2015, it has been the practice that where citizens have no PVCs, they can't vote. So what is the rate of collection of PVCs in the two states? In Bayelsa, 889,308 PVCs have been collected, representing 96.3% of the total number of registered voters. In Kogi, 1,485,828 PVCs have been collected, representing 90.2%. What about the uncollected PVCs? 33,874 in Bayelsa, representing 3.7% of the total number of registered voters, whereas in Kogi is 160,522, representing 9.8% of the registered voters. We will require a lot of ad hoc staff to conduct the elections in the two states. In Bayelsa, we will require 9,945 ad hoc staff, whereas for Kogi, we will require 15,868 ad hoc staff. So in all, for the two states, the Commission will require about 26,000 ad hoc staff to conduct the elections. But in addition to the governorship elections, we have other elections, essentially by-elections. We have already, since the 2019 general elections, conducted one by-election into the Pengana state constituency in Plateau State, caused by the death of the member representing that constituency. But in addition also, we have another by-election pending in Katsina, the Sabwa state constituency in Sabwa local government area. The Speaker of the State Assembly has already declared vacancy. So we are preparing for the by-elections. But in addition to the governorship election in Bayelsa State, there is also the pending supplementary election into Brass 2 state constituency in 6 polling units. We planned and prepared to conduct the elections shortly after the general elections. But because of protracted legal battle that went up to the Supreme Court, and it is only recently that the Supreme Court determined the case. So we are going back to conduct elections in 6 polling units to make a declaration for the Brass 2 state constituency. So we are going to combine that with the governorship election. Party primaries and nomination of candidates. Distinguished Chair, we have 92 political parties today. We had 91 going into the 2019 general elections. But since the general elections, the courts have ordered the commission to register another political party. Some of the parties were actually registered by court order. The constitutional provision for registration of parties is very clear. But in addition, the Electoral Act says that if an association doesn't hear from INEC within 1 month, it is deemed to be registered. So some of the political parties were actually registered by court order. And INEC has a record of obeying court orders. We have always dutifully obeyed court orders. So we have 92 political parties. We have already shared information on the 91. including their logos and what have you. But for the Kogi and Bayelsa governorship elections, parties conducted their primaries, we monitored the primaries. But only 52 nominated candidates for the Bayelsa governorship elections, 49 in Kogi, making a total of 101 parties for the two elections. However, out of the 101, 46 parties in Bayelsa, 41 in Kogi, making a total of 87 parties made valid nominations. In other words, the nominations complied with the constitutional requirements for qualification for election to the office of governor. Just one, the candidate has to be a Nigerian citizen by birth. Two, he or she has to be 35 years of age minimum. Three, must be sponsored by a political party. We have no independent candidacy. And then four, the candidate must be educated to school certificate level. They completed the CF001, and prima facie, we saw on the documents that they submitted on oath that some of them did not meet the constitutional requirements for contesting for election to the office of governor. Some were 30, 31, 34, and in one exceptional case, even a 27-year-old person was nominated by one of the parties. So we said that the nominations are invalid. Here, I think it's important to make the clarification. The commission did not reject or disqualify, because there is nothing to reject or disqualify, in our opinion, once the requirement of the Constitution is not met. We can't see, for instance, somebody who has not met the constitutional requirement for age contesting. So we have taken a decision, we have nominated the parties. For this category of invalid nominations, 6 parties are involved in Bayelsa and 8 in Kogi, making a total of 14 parties. So out of 101 parties, 87 have made valid nominations. We have no problem with that. But 14 parties have submitted invalid nominations, and we inform them accordingly. But out of the 87 parties that made valid nominations, 1 party in Bayelsa withdrew from the elections during the period for withdrawal and substitution of candidates. And in Kogi, 18 political parties withdrew, making a total of 19 for the 2 states. After all the expenditure, monitoring the party primaries and what have you, they then, based on the provisions of the law, decided to withdraw from the elections. It is entirely legitimate for them to withdraw from the elections. And they gave quite a number of reasons, ranging from lack of financial capacity to prosecute the elections. Some said family advice, the fear of violence. One said ill health. Another one said travel arrangements. Then another one actually said that there is a slim chance that his party will win the election, so they withdrew from the election. The 19 political parties have withdrawn. So parties contesting in the elections for Bayelsa we have 45, and for Kogi we have 23, making a total of 68. But 3 of the 14 parties that made invalid nominations have dragged the commission to court. So we're in court with the 3. I can't comment on the merit of the case in court, but that is where we are on the matter. On budget, where are we? Do we have resources for the elections in Kogi and Bayelsa? Yes, we made provision in the 2019 regular budget for the 2 governorship elections. We have also made provision for some unforeseen off-season elections, like the Pengana state constituency election caused by death, and the pending by-election in Katsina, again caused by death. We have also made provision for recall and referendum. And distinguished senators, you may wish to know that yesterday we received a letter from one of the states asking for the register of voters to initiate a recall of one of the members of the National Assembly. So there is already a request for initiating recall. So we made provision in the regular budget for 2019 for this kind of situation. And we are well within budget. Then what about the implementation of scheduled activities? For the two elections, there are 14 activities that the Commission has to implement, from the publication of the notice of election to the election day proper. So far, we have successfully accomplished 9 out of the 14 activities. The 10th activity, which is the presentation of the register of voters to political parties, is going to take place on Monday the 14th in our offices in both Bayelsa and Kogi State. The remaining 4 activities will be accomplished between the 2nd and the 16th of November. So in terms of the goals that we set for ourselves, we are well and truly on course for the elections. Logistics. The Commission is aware that the 2 states are a bit difficult in terms of terrain. Arrangements have been concluded with the National Union of Road Transport Workers for land transport based on the existing memorandum of understanding between the Commission and NURTW. And in Bayelsa, because 5 out of the 8 local governments are riverine, we have also made arrangements with boat owners. All non-sensitive materials for the election for the 2 states have been delivered to Kogi and Bayelsa. And they are batching the materials by local governments and by RAs and ultimately down to the level of polling units for the election. So all non-sensitive materials have already been delivered to the 2 states for the election. As always, the smart card readers will be deployed for the elections for the purpose of voter accreditation, and we have made arrangements for the configuration and deployment of the smart card readers. The manual registers will have to be printed. We have also made arrangement for the printing of the manual registers. One will be pasted at the polling units, the other one will be held by the presiding officer. That's the one that we tick off on election day at the polling units. We are well on course also with the production of the register. I said earlier that we will require about 26,000 ad hoc staff. It's not just recruiting the 26,000, but training them. And we have commenced the process of recruitment of the staff and training them. For those that are going to perform the task at the polling units, mainly drawn from the NYSC, will also be recruited and trained. The process is ongoing. But already we have concluded the master training, the train the trainer program for security personnel. And we have also conducted the refresher training for electoral officers and assistant electoral officers for the 2 states. So in terms of recruitment and training of staff, we are also on course. Security situation. Both Kogi and Bayelsa are politically volatile. And we have seen the kind of situation that arose during the conduct of primaries by political parties. And 1 or 2 incidents in Kogi with the commencement of campaigns by political parties. So we have the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, which I co-chair with the National Security Advisor. The police is the lead agency, but all other security agencies are also involved. Yesterday we had a consultative meeting with the Inspector General of Police, and we are working on the deployment jointly with the security agencies of the security personnel needed for the 2 elections. We conduct our own risk assessment for the 2 states, and we share what we do with the security agencies that also conduct their own risk assessment, on the basis of which the security agencies will be guided in their deployment. We will soon finalize on the deployment plan jointly with the security agencies, including the escort of personnel and materials as well as the protection of the processes throughout the period of the elections. In a place like Bayelsa, we not only hire boats, we also work with the security agencies, the Marine Police, the Navy, and the Army to have gunboats to escort the boats carrying personnel and materials for the election. And we are working with the security agencies in that respect. Stakeholder engagement. Given the security situation in the two states, we realize that we have to be more proactive in our engagement with all the stakeholders at state level. Since this is the first major election after the 2019 general elections, and learning lessons from what happened in the 2019 general elections, we have taken the extraordinary step to start engaging with the stakeholders long before the elections. Tomorrow we will be in Lokoja to meet with all the stakeholders, including traditional rulers. And then on Tuesday, we will be in Yenagoa to engage with the stakeholders as well, essentially to speak to them, to speak to their supporters, including the political parties and others, for free, fair, and peaceful elections. I have briefly, quickly, distinguished chairman, distinguished senators, mentioned 10 issues. I hope I've said enough to generate discussions. Thank you, distinguished chairman. Thank you, senators.